I was obsessed so much that I wanted to learn like the chemical makeup of like actually constructing them from scratch. So it started with just like ripping apart fireworks, and then it evolved to like, oh, I'm literally now using like my mom's information to order raw chemicals offline and like create literal like proper fireworks, not just bombs, like proper fireworks, like even mortars that they shoot up into the air like completely from scratch.
Roc Nation, welcome back to episode 67 of the 505 podcast. Today's guest hails from the land of Portland, Oregon. He's a filmmaker, DP, YouTuber, a Sony shooter, and he's off the market. His wife is in town. She is a live audience member today. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ryan Kao. Ryan, welcome. This is our first time with a live audience, so I'm excited.
No, this is cool.
Yeah, this is great.
I'm super stoked.
You got to start us off, though, with the one-handed crack, and he hasn't practiced at all, so this is just
I know.
raw.
I'm like, I was feeling confident going into it, and then like now that we're here, now that we're rolling, I'm like little shaky.
When I went to Erewhon, I actually tested about 12 cans, and I wanted to give you the best chance to actually succeed at this, so
okay,
give it to me right now.
All right.
Okay, one hand. Yep. It's feeling good. Yep. Oh, okay. Wait. Okay.
I know. Yeah. You can't get
this thing started. Yeah, I don't want you to, really.
It was a little wet on the top.
I know. I just wanted you to know. Okay.
Sure.
Here we go. Yep.
No, full dent.
Oh,
Full dent.
It's okay. It happens. We're gonna start off with a 3-9, but I'm really happy to have you. Yeah. And we got you your favorite drink.
It's a pleasure to
root
be
beer
here.
Flavor,
dude, root beer.
Come on.
You kidding me? I mean, we're adults nowadays, so right. So it's like sugar.
Yeah.
Is the enemy.
Like, it stays. It really does stay now.
Oh, dude, it's insane.
It's crazy.
How like terrible it'll make you feel. You like put down like a little chocolate bar or something like that, and you're just like, oh, I don't feel good.
I think I got to stay away from those Airhead Extremes because I'll be going to 7-Eleven. It's too close, and I just eat like 2 of those a night, and then I'm like, oh my god! Every time I wake up in the morning, it's a bad decision.
Mm-hmm. If there's a place to eat healthy though, it's LA.
Oh, dude, so much options. Yeah. Just anywhere you go, like there is somehow like an healthy alternative like that's around the corner.
Vegan somewhere. Vegan everything.
Do you feel like an LA like native yet? Are you like accustomed to living here?
No, close. I mean, so it's funny. It's like that, we moved down here like about 9 months ago, so we're coming up on like the year mark. And so far everything's been incredible, but it's like even though before moving here, like for multiple years, I was here probably like twice a month. So I've spent plenty of time, like I know the majority of the neighborhoods, but like nothing about it yet feels like creature comfort, like relaxed, like still trying to find the groove, but
I feel like it takes a year from my girlfriend moved from Oregon with me, and she felt the same way. I think she's just came up on a year, and she was like, I finally feel like I've met a couple friends. It's just it's hard to kind of get situated, I feel like, in a new city.
It definitely, I mean, it's like it's unique because it's like a lot of the times when people are moving to LA, like it's usually work driven or career driven or motivation. There's some amount of kind of like pressure that comes associated with like making it here, right? So I feel like a lot of times, like the first year, like you're really almost like trying to ask the question, like, was it worth it? Like, am I like getting the value out of it? So you're not really giving yourself like full opportunity to like actually connect with people and like develop long-term friendships that like give you that sense of like grounding and like friendship.
Do you feel like now you're kind of getting those friendships, like starting to build those up?
Slowly, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it's like there's a couple of guys now that I've been working with pretty frequently that are like proving to, not just be like work relationships. Like they're like total homies. Like, they come over and spend time with us, like, treat my wife like really, really well. And it's just like, it's a really, really good opportunity to like finally have those. But it's like, I'm definitely finding that like, it takes more time. Like everybody's like super driven here. Like everybody's got their shit going on. So it's like, lining up with schedules and like, making sure, like you guys are actually able to meet up and have like positive conversations that aren't just like super work motivated. Like it's different. You know what I mean? Like back home versus like in Oregon or like, other states, I feel like there's a lot more people who aren't like hustling to like make a career out of it. So it's kind of like, you can find those more friendly conversations a little easier.
Totally. And what was the reason that brought you out to LA? Like, why not stay in Portland?
Well, I mean, like I said, there was for probably about 2 years, probably twice a month, I was flying down here for projects, working with different clients and, just traveling or working out of here to travel to other places. Just because, again, so many of my my long-term kind of clientele, and network of friends are just kind of base here, right? So it wasn't that like Portland was holding me back by any means. Like there was nothing about it that I feel like was taking away from my ability to do well. But the direction that I'm like currently kind of trying to head with everything that I'm doing, you know, being a commercial cinematographer, you know, continuing to try and kind of build up that reputation and portfolio. The market in Portland is big, obviously, like Nike's out there, like Adidas, like tons and tons of like the major sportswear brands and stuff are operating kind of out of Portland offices. But the problem is a lot of the production companies that do that work, they're the first call every time, right? And so it's like they have their crew that they utilize like pretty much 95% of the time. Like occasionally they'll hire in or contract in extra people. So it's not like I couldn't get that work, but it was definitely like a bigger fight than it needed to be. And so like, you know, doing the YouTube stuff was like a big supplementary, you know, income source for me just like over the last like 5 years or so. And that's been really great. But also kind of on the flip side of that, it's like Portland doesn't really have like a lot of that type of like creator demographic. And so it's like, it's cool, you know, I'm like a little bit of a bigger fish in a smaller pond in a way, but at the same time, like that is kind of like gets a little stale. It's like, you know, I want to be in an area where I do have people who are like pushing and like getting out and shooting new stuff and like just being like excited about things. And it's like, oh, like I have so many friends down in LA who are like going for it, and I'm up here just like, yeah. I'll see you next month. I'll fly down there.
Did you feel like in Portland, because I was in Eugene, like based out there, but a lot of those guys were from Portland. Did you feel like you had a decent community of any filmmaker friends or photographer friends out there?
Yeah, 100%. Ironically, a lot of the people that I work with down here were from Portland, and then I had met like in that community. Like there was a really cool group of like very unique kind of creative upcoming people kind of in the Portland scene. Like my barber, for instance, that I was going to for like 5 years is just like an amazing stylist, designer, creative director type guy, and he's got a bunch of buddies.
What's your barber's name?
Kyle James.
I got my hair cut by Kyle one time.
Dude, he's so the boy. Kyle's a man.
Yeah,
Shout out Kyle.
Kyle cuts great hair. My friend Henry introduced me. You know Henry?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Henry's like, we're going to this, but we're going to do like a house call at this guy's house. I'm like, let's go. This is going to be so sick. He's up in that high rise apartment.
Yeah.
Really cool. He does an amazing haircut.
Oh, he's just like a cool fucking guy. Like
he's so swaggy.
Yeah, dude. He's like, his tattoos are insane. He just like has the look.
He's got all these clothes, dude. He sells clothes and does
hand cut and sew and stuff.
And does the haircuts out of the apartment.
Yeah. My barber also is like fully tatted, and I feel like the move is to have like a fully tatted swag barber. You know, dude. The fade's gonna be on point.
Yeah, you get the connects too. They got the style advice and everything. No, but I mean, yeah, like, you know, in my time of kind of getting into the freelance world and kind of beginning to build up like a portfolio and a reputation, like, yeah, a lot of the Portland people I knew were super supportive and encouraging of that. So, you know, when I say like Portland wasn't really like motivating or inspiring, it's not like I can't fully like hate on it for that regard, but it's like, it's nothing like LA, you know what I mean? Where it's like any and everybody that we talk to, whether you go out to a bar, whether you're like in, you know, fucking line at fucking wow, I was just about to say a restaurant name and I blanked it, dude. I can't. I'm not an LA guy. Anyway, Erewhon. Sure, Erewhon. Yeah. Like anybody and everybody's like doing stuff, and like it's different in that sense with Portland. But I mean, yeah, there was a lot of guys who were, you know, like obviously you're from Oregon. You know, I've known a lot of people that come out of Portland and stuff that have like been doing pretty amazing things. But yeah, I just wanted to do something that, you know, would give me an opportunity to make another step and, you know, just taking decisions more seriously, you know, making lifestyle changes to keep pushing the direction I'm striving for.
Yeah, and you brought up a really good point. You felt like a big fish in a small pond.
Right.
And Braden, you've given really good advice about this. It's like, we did a whole episode about should you move to a big city and like the pros and cons of it. I feel like when you're first starting out, you know, it's great to be in a major city like LA. Like there's a lot of opportunity, but there's a ton of competition as well.
Yeah.
And I feel like perfect your skill, get better at your craft, and build up your portfolio and go from a small fish in a small-ish pond to like the big fish in that small pond.
100%.
And then you can move and go to a big city like LA or New York. And then I feel like that gives you a better chance for success and to take that next step in your career.
Exactly. No, I mean, we briefly kind of touched on this on Ed and Paul's Mid Convo podcast, and like one thing that I feel like I've kind of learned and absorbed, and you know, in watching other friends and creators that I've known that have kind of made lifestyle changes and city moves and stuff, is that if your motivation for moving to a new city is to catch your wave of of success, whether that's growing on Instagram, whether that's building up a more like reliable freelance network. If the hope is that the move will give you that, probably not the right time. I think if you're in the current city you're operating out of and you've gotten some amount of success, like you've kind of started to get the little fire going, like you're getting recognition, you're getting people reaching out to you, getting inquiries to travel to other places, I think that's a really good sign. So at that point, if you're considering making the move to take the next step, you're not worried about succeeding or finding clients. It's like, okay, well, how can I do this smarter? Like, how can I create more long-term predictability and projectability of building my brand? Moving to a city at that point might be a move. Like if it's financially doable to you and you have kind of that safety net built up with cash flow and everything, like, especially if you got homies in that new city, like I don't think there's anything that's going to go wrong.
Yeah,
definitely. So 6 years ago, is that when you started making YouTube videos, or are these older ones archived?
Oh boy. Wow, good call there. 6 years ago is when I think I started taking video and filmmaking seriously, but yes, you are correct.
Okay,
there are about 12 years of archived YouTube content.
Do you ever go back and like look at how far you've came on some of these?
Every once in a while, somebody will, like whether it's like friends, conversation at dinner or something like that, somebody will bring it up and I'll kind of talk on it, and then I'll kind of like get a little nostalgic and go look at some of them. Dude, like there's some videos that are like straight pre-puberty voice, like little baby Ryan, just like voice cracking on camera. Like it's horrible.
But that's how you start and you practice and you kind of find your voice. What year did you start working at the camera shop in Portland?
I started working at Pro Photo Supply, which is like the main kind of go-to camera store in Portland. I want to say it was the end of 2014.
Did you learn a ton from that job, or were you pretty knowledgeable already of cameras and technology and all that stuff? I
would say I was pretty overall very, very competent with like a lot of the ins and outs of like the camera, like for instance, the big motivation as to like what got me into like pursuing kind of photography and videography is I bought like a Canon T2i, right? Like the classic first DSLR for everybody. It's like T2i or T3i or whatever.
I had the T3i, yeah.
There you go. I bought my T2i. I tried to do like a firmware like hack on it with Magic Lantern. I don't know if any of you guys.
Oh yeah. I forgot about Magic Lantern.
Yeah.
You just unlocked the
memory.
Dude,
I know. Yeah. You're trying to like unlock like all these other like video codec profiles and all this shit. Dude, it's like fucking grandpa stuff here. Like there's so many creators that are literally gonna have no clue
what that is.
Yeah. But I tried to update it and it bricked it. And so I had to go get a T3i because I was like getting ready to do a photo shoot like the next week, and I was like, I had to use all like my summer money that I'd saved up. And
that T3i was like groundbreaking. I remember we were using GoPros for most stuff, and then one of the friends got the T3i, and we're like, this is a movie, dude. We're making movies over. I don't know what you guys are doing, but we're making movies.
You get like a 50, like 1.8.
Yeah.
You like open the lens up and it's like, oh my God, I'm Roger Deakins.
Spielberg's calling.
Dude.
That's funny.
Takes it to a new level.
You're lucky though that you realized that it was bricked before you showed up on set.
Yeah.
Because I've had a few times, or set or a shoot, whatever. Yeah. I've had a few times where my camera has broke or like my lens has broken. I didn't realize, and like nothing happened. It just like, it's like the lens was broken, wasn't reading on the camera, and I showed up to shoot, and I'm like, I literally don't know what's going on. Like tried to reset
the autofocus is like
literally was not reading my lens. So yeah,
crazy.
Tough.
But no, going into that job, so basically the way it happened is I got approached by a recommendation from one of my dad's friends or something like that kind of like was familiar with that store, and he's like, hey, like you have a son that's like pretty into like cameras and tech stuff, like the Pro Photo Supply, they need holiday help. So I got hired like right around like September, October, something like that, going into the holiday season, just like the whole 3-month Black Friday, Christmas thing. And so it was part-time, and I just quickly just meshed into it. And it was like, I felt so excited to be able to just like play with like every brand new camera at the time. Like that was when like Sony mirrorless like was first hitting the scene and like just exploding. So like I was like getting to play with all the cameras, like could take stuff home on days off or whatever. And like within that first year, like I like I think the following year I'd got hired. The second Black Friday I worked, I was like top salesperson, like was just like slanging cameras, you know what I mean? Like it was crazy.
Were you doing YouTube? I saw some of the YouTube videos in the camera shop itself. So
oh yeah.
I thought it was great. I mean, it ended up like working out. How often were you uploading? Was it at that time period, were you like YouTube or bust, or what did it kind of look like? Because obviously now your career path is taking a little bit of a change. You're now DPing work, you're doing documentary filmmaking and whatnot.
Yeah.
So at that time though, what was on your mind? Were you thinking it's just YouTube and I want to maybe move to LA, or was LA even on the thought process?
No, it's so funny that you correlate the LA thing to that. So it's like, I wasn't making YouTube videos when I first started there. I was basically just doing like portrait shoots, like senior photo shoots and stuff like that. That was like really the only thing I was doing with photography, like while working there. But as I was working there and getting these opportunities to like meet tons of people, that's how I met like Henry. That's how I met like Tom Bender, like literally Pro Photo Supply, like Ilgander. Like I'm not sure if you're familiar with Everett.
Dude, he's
insane.
Wait, Henry XX?
Yeah.
The boy.
Yeah, I know. It's
Shout out Henry.
Small world.
It is.
Like,
It's such a small world.
But no, I mean, I was just a friendly face, and like most of the guys who worked in that store were like pretty old. I don't know if you've ever pull up in Sammy's and it's like, you don't want to talk to anyone.
Dude, Sammy's, we got to figure out Sammy's. Not to shit on Sammy's for half a
No, we
second.
can shit on Sammy's.
We can shit on Sammy's.
Dude, every time I go to Sammy's camera, I'm like trying to stand in line. I'm like, I just here to pick up a light, and they're like taking 97. If you open up a camera shop in LA, it would compete. Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. I'm going to be blacklisted from Sammy's camera.
Dude, I know.
It's the only place open. We
Yeah,
can't.
you're gonna walk in the front door. There's gonna be a picture of your face.
You.
Fucking mother. Yeah, and so like just the fact that I was like a young person, like I'm not fact checked, but like I'm pretty sure I was the youngest person that's ever worked at the store. That was like I think I just turned 18. Like I was like super fresh. Like I technically that was supposed to be my final year of high school, and I was doing online courses and also didn't graduate.
No way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Really?
That was supposed to be the first year I got hired for temporary help. That was my final year of school, and I just like it started consuming more and more of my time, and like I was doing really good with it and like making decent income. And, you know, I talked to my parents, and they're basically just like, well, I mean, like, if you feel like you just want to keep going with this for a couple of years, like, just, you know, figure out your GED or something like that at some point. And it's not like I had major ambitions to like go to like later education. So it was just like, okay, cool. Like, I mean, we'll just give it a little bit of time. And like, they were like, as long as you're like actively putting in steps to keep becoming an adult, like, we're not going to like, you know, fault you.
So they were supportive in the filmmaking stuff. Your dad and your mom, or no?
Yeah, I mean, because like I said, like I'd been making videos and like doing stuff with cameras and kind of learning just the ins and outs of like content for, you know, since I was like 11 years old. Like 2008 was when I made my first like YouTube video.
And what was like the reason you picked up a camera in the first place?
Oh boy. I mean, we're pivoting here, but I mean, long story short, like I was just one of those kids that was like obsessed with YouTube. Like when that like became like a literal like Google search engine for like anything you wanted, like not only was it just like comedy and humor and skits and shitty music videos and stuff, it was like actually like you could start learning shit off YouTube.
Yeah.
I was just like crazy like ADHD with like hobbies when I was little.
Tell
like,
me about it, dude.
Oh man.
Oh, bro, we could talk about this for hours.
Yeah.
I literally have this thing. My mom printed this thing out, and it's like it's a picture, and it has every silly hobby that I picked up for 2 weeks
Oh,
and got
man.
good at, and then it's like 47 different things on this wall.
I would love to actually like
We got to chat about that after.
diagram that out
That's so funny.
and see what it's like. But the first thing that sparked me making YouTube videos, it's gonna sound super like left field, but like I was obsessed with like fireworks. Like everybody, like every little kid, right? Every boy,
You're a
like
pyro,
growing up,
dude.
Okay, so my channel's name. People are gonna go fucking search this, but I changed the name of the channel.
that's
And the channel's name was Mr. Pyro Enthusiast.
That's amazing.
Dude,
I think I was subscribed to you actually.
I was watching those videos.
that's so it's funny because I actually have had a couple of people on my current channel that have been like, did you used to make fireworks videos
That's
like
incredible.
10 years ago?
That's amazing.
But no, I mean, it wasn't like, obviously like every boy growing up, like 4th of July comes around and we go fucking crazy. And you know, you tear apart like Piccolo Pete's or whatever and make bombs and stuff. It got to the point where I was like, no. But here's the thing is like, I was obsessed so much that I wanted to learn like the chemical makeup of like actually constructing them from scratch. So it started with just like ripping apart fireworks, and then it evolved to like, oh, I'm literally now using like my mom's information to order raw chemicals offline and like create literal like proper fireworks, not just bombs, like proper fireworks, like even mortars that they shoot up into the air like completely from scratch. So I like those were my first like
At what, like 12 years old?
yeah.
Your
That's
mom's
epic.
like, Ryan, another package came to the house. You're like, yeah, it's
Yeah, it's
fine.
fine.
It's school supplies.
Yeah, no, seriously. We always used to joke that's like I am probably 100% on like some sort of
absolutely.
like local Oregon police watch list for
100%.
like doing weird, chemicals, illegals. I don't know. Whole different story. The crazy part about that, like obviously, like it's one thing to like like start making chemical fucking like literally Breaking Bad shit and like my dad's like back shit. I had to move my setup, like my little workshop, like multiple times. Like my mom got tired of it being in the garage at one point, so like my parents were split, so went to my dad's house and like took over the fucking shed in the backyard. And he's just like, Jesus Christ. Like,
What's your kid doing?
yeah.
That's bad. That's so funny.
Yeah.
So you're doing the firework YouTube. When do you kind of pick up the fascination with filmmaking or with making videos?
Oh, we still got a long way to go, man.
We still got a long way to go.
There
with
was
that.
probably like 130 videos on that channel.
Oh,
Wow. All about fireworks.
Yeah.
Dude, were they doing brand deals for fireworks back in the day? You're just the TNT guy, like on the side of the thing.
I'm literally,
When little kids go to buy them.
you go buy fireworks, and I'm like, now the
Yeah, you're just like the face with like the big mortars.
yeah.
that's hilarious.
No, that channel probably existed for like 3 years or so. Like that, I would like pretty continuously, like, full time during the summer was like pumping out content. And it wasn't even like that I was like building some crazy audience. Like I think it got up to like 1,200 subscribers or something like that. And it got to the point like toward the end of kind of like that channel's life that I did kind of start posting like other types of videos and things. But long story short, that was not the only channel. Like I did a full channel about car audio.
Audio.
Yes, like speakers and stuff, but not just like little fucking bedroom setups with like the Sony boomboxes and shit. Like no, I was literally buying like straight up real car audio, like subwoofers and speakers and amps and like car head units, and I was like wiring them with like computer power supplies, like for the 12-volt like power, in like building full like car audio setups in my room.
That's wild.
I like how both of you are just
I
like,
was like, I did not expect it
Yeah.
to take a turn into
And
car audio.
so-
okay, fireworks, car audio.
that channel, that car audio channel probably had like 50 or 60 videos.
Okay. You're cranking vids.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that all these different YouTube channels allowed you to refine the craft of making a video and just telling a good story?
100%. It's so funny. Somebody on one of my recent stories that I posted of like a timeline I was working on, they were just like, how many hours do you think like you put in to like get to like the point you're at? And I was like trying to roughly like kind of like do some math or whatever, and I don't know if I have an accurate number, but it's for sure like well over 10,000. Like well over 10,000.
On the most recent 7-continent documentary.
For no, not how many hours it took me to edit. No, how many hours do you think I've put in?
He's put in his 10,000.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay,
the
okay,
classic,
got it.
like,
My bad.
10,000 hours.
I was like, I thought you were talking about a most recent
Dog,
project.
yeah, 10,000
I was
hours on my documentary.
I'm like, you're taking a lot of time, Ryan. You've just not slept for the last that was just a few weeks ago that you got back.
No, 10,000 hours I think is like 4 years or some shit.
I'm not good at math, so. That's funny.
And this is why we went to school.
This is why we went. This is why we did the video stuff. That's why I switched out of STEM.
Like, damn.
So when you get done with the car audio, how many more channels until you actually get to filmmaking?
I want to say like 4. Wow. 4 more channels that all probably had like between like 20 to 50 more videos.
All different industries.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
All like completely different. And so the funny part about that is like throughout that kind of overall span of like that decade, approximately like 10 years of kind of making all of those different channels, never at any point did it like occur to me that I wanted to be a filmmaker. It was literally just like, I had all these hobbies. Like I knew it wasn't making any fucking money. Like the monetization rules for YouTube back then was like way stricter. Like you had to like get to the like 1,000 subscribers or whatever to get the partner, verification, like just all that stuff. I know the rules are like very different now, but back then it was like, it seemed impossible. There was never like oh, you can just start a YouTube channel and make money. Like now you can monetize fucking anything. But, at that point, like it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to make a job out of this. It wasn't like I'm going to, somehow become like a cinematographer or anything. I was just like making videos to learn, and I wanted to like keep doing like my hobbies and stuff. And it was like a fun way to just kind of fuel it all.
I mean, dude, I think that it's amazing to just see your progression, because I see all these crazy videos that you're working on now, and to think that you started 10 years ago just doing this for fun, like many of us. I feel like most of the creators that I talk to, we all start off either making home videos or making videos about some random thing that you enjoyed.
Skateboarding, snowboarding. Sorry, that was another. It wasn't a channel, but I was making tons of videos about that.
Were you pretty nice at skating?
I wasn't great at skating. Funny enough, I got like pretty heavy into like aggressive rollerblading. I was like pretty
shin guards,
decent
knee pads. You were just speed, one speed.
I am the rollerblade. No. Like the freestyle rollerblading and stuff. And so like all of my friends, like the skate park in the hometown that we grew up, like everybody kind of did different stuff. I had a few kids that were like super good at like fucking insane at scootering, like fucking pro level scooterers and like BMX and all that stuff. And so I would like, I was rollerblading because that's kind of what I was better at. So I liked it. But it also lended itself really well to filming. Right, like following and shit. It like there's tons of DPs that I know that are like will use like rollerblades. Like some people use like one wheels and stuff. Like, and that's the move for sure. But they're a little dangerous. Like, are you fucking playing? Like,
I'd be so sad.
I saw a dude, like an elderly guy, just like full knee pads, elbow pads, helmet on a pink one wheel, like going down Wilshire. I was like, what are you doing?
I fucking kid you not. In Portland, my wife and I, Kylie, we were just like out at this little bar, like in the Pearl District in Portland, just like grabbing like some pizza and beers. A full fucking squad of like 120 guys pull up on like one wheels and like little mono wheels, all lit up. They were doing like a group ride through Portland, and they all just pull up. They're like just pounding beers, and we're just like, what the fuck is happening?
That's the most Portland thing I've ever heard, though.
100%.
That is where it would originate, dude. That's where the club starts.
People take photos of like the unicycle guy with the fucking Darth Vader mask and the bagpipes. It's like, that's weird as fuck, but he like, he's unique.
He's got his thing.
But then you get like the group rides of fucking one wheel boys that are just like all dialed in. Some of them have like these crazy helmets and shit, and it's just like, are a nerd, dude.
I feel him on that.
Don't give me. I'm sorry. I can't shit on it. It's environmentally friendly. Like they're doing the world a favor, but like,
so funny.
Damn, you look funny doing it.
So you finally end up making your way after all these different channels to being a filmmaking YouTuber.
Yeah,
you're starting to crank out these videos. We went down 6 years ago. We were checking them out. That's where I knew that you got your haircut by Kyle, because I saw that your last video, it's 6 years ago, you were getting a fade by Kyle James, which is so funny. But you end up, you're messing around making videos, right? At what point do you say, I'm going to upload once a week, or I'm going to upload 2 times a month, whatever it looked like for you?
Yeah. So it's like Pro Photo Supply, right? We're doing the thing there, like working, starting to actually kind of figure out like, oh, this industry is like kind of like achievable. Like I can probably start, if I put myself out there and start like assisting a bunch of these guys for free, like literally just asking them when they're coming in to like grab a SD card or whatever. It's like, yo, if you have a shoot and you need like some help, like this is my off day, like I can pull up. And I did that for probably like the next following year straight, like working for free, assisting on all of these different sets, like working with, photographers doing commercial like Nike shoots and like Adidas stuff all the time, and tons of like product photographers and all that stuff. So it was mostly photography. Anyways, long story short, what happened was this was literally when the Sony A7R II dropped, right? So like everybody knows like the A7S II was like the OG Sony mirrorless that fucking destroys video. And it was like insane. And that was like a huge game changer. Like DSLRs were getting like kind of phased out a little bit. Like there are a lot of people who are still on the fence about it, like old school photographers, Nikon shooters.
Fuck Nikon.
I can't even believe
you said that.
I don't know why it was the first thing first brand. No, it's funny though. Like a lot of older photographers, like wildlife, like it's all Nikon.
Yeah. I know.
Everybody
all the old school guys at the shoot sports all rip Nikon.
Oh, dude, yeah. People want to like smack around Nikon a little bit. Potato camera, Sam Newton, whatever. But no, I mean they've been the champs
because they've spent so much. Dude, these guys have spent $40 grand on glass and they don't want to swap.
Dude, yeah. There's no their long lenses lineup is unmatched.
Dude, and you see these lenses at these games and like other things that I've shot, and these guys, dude, these lenses look like they've just thrown it down a bag of rocks and just like they're like, just throw it in my car, like throw that.
Oh my god,
that
dude!
lens
Yeah, they've had it for like 12 years. Like they're like it's been dropped out of the back of like safaris and stuff, and they're just like, works great. So the A7R II dropped in, if you know, people who are like camera nerds and stuff have been doing it for a while, that was the first Sony that literally had like the fucking aimbot autofocus. Wasn't like eye tracking, but it was like the phase tracking, like the phase detection system. Canon obviously was also releasing some cameras that were starting to do like the dual pixel autofocus and stuff. And so like it quickly went from like, oh, like these cameras are not only doing good video to like, now you can like vlog with these things and actually get shit done. So having working at the store, I had access to like employee discounts. Said fuck it and bought the Sony, and I was like, you know, it's great because it's like high resolution, it's great for photo, it's great for video, and I was like, you know what, like fuck it, I'm gonna start like vlogging a little bit and like kind of doing some stuff like with like the photo shoots I was working on and like doing the cinematic sequence vlogs. Like there's a handful of people that were kind of just starting to crack into it at that time. Like that was like right at the exact same time Peter McKinnon started posting some of his first. Casey obviously was like a huge inspiration for me, to, unlike, you know, or excuse me, like everybody else in the world. Justin Escalona also was like huge inspiration. Like I loved
Daily
his
Docs.
Daily Docs, bro.
God, dude, loved him in college.
Yeah,
It was
no,
so
he
fun,
was
so fun. When he put out the A7S II, it was like, whoa.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, game changer.
I remember that exact video with that Porsche thing on what's the street main Fairfax. He's just like filming cars and shit. It's so
dude,
funny.
yeah, it's like that you get the slow-mo, like 60 frames, like actual usable color, and it was just like a total game changer. Like nothing like this had existed in the industry. And so at that point I started making the vlogs, right? Like Daily Docs, like, yes, I definitely took a lot of inspiration in the early phases, but it's like, you know, that's how you learn. You know, I'm planning on talking about this in another video at some point. Like you learn by trying things, you learn by copying things, and you eventually craft your own style. Anyways, so I started doing the vlogs for, I don't know, probably, I think the first year, this is all while I was working at the camera store, I had made like about like 50 or 60 videos. So pretty much like a video a week that I was going for. And there were some phases where I was like going harder and I would do like 3 or 4 days back-to-back uploads. But again, it was never really with the intent of like making it a career, becoming a content creator. Again, like everything that had led up to this with all the other YouTube videos that I had created, like the same kind of mindset I had was still in play. Like I just wanted to make videos and like keep learning like what I'm doing with like photo and video, meeting these people and like having something to like show to people of like some of the things I'm working on. A year goes by and I'm making all these, you know, this content. I had grown my channel maybe to like 2,000 subscribers or so, like had a pretty good early start, like, you know, had a lot of really good feedback, and I was just like willing to learn as quick as I could. And by the end of that, I had actually gotten fired from Pro Photo Supply. I don't know if you get, I think I briefly talked about it on Ed's podcast.
I didn't know that.
There's a whole backstory to it. I did do a video kind of sharing, but I haven't like fully shared all the details. But long story short, like they were just like, they got a little tired of me like constantly taking days off and like constantly renting equipment. Like it got to a point, like you said, there were some days where I'd film like a little bit of stuff inside at the store. And at first, like my boss, like my supervisor and like a lot of the employees were like stoked. Like they thought it was so sick that like I'm this young kid, like just like actually creating things, like not just selling the cameras and like making commission and then going home and like has nothing to do with it. Like they encouraged their employees to like, you know, be a part of the industry because it helps sell the gear like when you're passionate about it. So doing those videos and like, you know, creating in the store, like it was a ton of fun, but it did get to a point, yeah, where it kind of got me in trouble a little bit. Like they kind of were like, hey, we can kind of clearly see that you're taking advantage of the equipment and kind of the access into it and stuff. And, you know, you're clearly saying like you're from Pro Photo Supply and like you're showing the front of the store. So it's like their contention was that like this is starting to kind of look like content like on behalf of the brand. So at that point, they're like, okay, well, like you didn't get permission with us to like be, you know, sort of presenting Pro Photo Supply. Like we don't really like everything you're doing in your videos. Like, yeah, I was doing some bullshit stuff with my friends, not like fuck shit, like David Dobrik stuff. You know what I mean? But I was like, yeah, some stupid jokes and like random shenanigans or whatever.
And blowing up fireworks.
Dude.
Middle of the video.
Thumbnail, just my face is just roasted, the classic.
He's on the roof of the camera store, like blowing up fireworks.
I wanted the shot, dude.
From like 7 angles, drones.
Yeah. The new DJI drone just dropped. But it got to a point where, you know, it was pretty obvious to them that like I was, you know, using, you know, the benefits. And on top of that, again, like, I was taking time off. I kind of had a shitty situation happen. One of the photographers, not going to say his name because it's not relevant, but one of the photographers I had worked with that invited me out to go shoot and assist for him. I took that day off. Like I requested it off. He came back in the next day after and was talking to my supervisor because they like had chatted a few times, and she was like, oh, like what have you been up to? And he's like, oh, just shot some stuff yesterday with Ryan. Like, it was super sick. We went down to like the Florence Dunes in Oregon, shot some crazy photo. Like
Dunes
it's one of my
sick though.
One of my favorite.
Dudes are so sick.
One of the photos that I shot there was printed and it's been hanging in my house. Like it's one of my favorite photos I've ever taken. Yeah. But he totally just like
blew your cover,
just threw me under the bus with, and not his fault. But then later she comes over to me and she's like, hey, so I heard you were like out like pretty late last night, like with your photographer friend. Like, is that like why you showed up late this morning? And I was just like, oh my God.
No. So they start to catch up on it.
They start to catch up.
How many YouTube videos do you think you have at that point?
At that point on my channel, probably 60 or 70 videos, and I would say maybe like 10 or 15 of them had like content of me like at the store, like doing something. Like the employees were like again like such homies, like they were so stoked to like be a part of this stuff and like seeing me create things. Like a couple of them I'm still in contact with, like they love everything that I've been doing. But it got to a point where like they weren't having it.
They had it. Yeah.
So they just brought me in. I walked in for my shift and they were just like, hey, can you come upstairs real quick? I'm just like, oh, you gotta fucking do it to me like this. And it was like a good day to like, it was sunny weather and I was like feeling pretty good.
1 out of 365.
But I will say, dude, ask for forgiveness. Don't ask for permission. And I think that you like pushing the boundaries at the store, like it was for sure worth it. Like it sounds as though your time at the camera store like served its purpose for 100%. Obviously like teaching you about camera stuff, getting in and getting experience on set, and kind of just like got your foot in the door in the whole filmmaking space. You did bring up like getting to do these shoots and you're working for free. Yeah. Can you touch a little bit on the importance of working for free at the beginning of your career to gain experience?
Yeah, it's invaluable, right? Like there's so many people that kind of maybe start researching or asking friends that they know that are in the industry, like, hey, like is film school worth it? Or like, should I buy this course? Like all these different ways that they feel, might be a good next step or decision that will help them maybe get started, maybe learn something, maybe find their style. The biggest tool that you have available to you is the people around you. Like you have all these networks of people that you can tap into, like if you're just willing to show up and be a good person and help get the job done, right? Like the biggest thing that I think a lot of people struggle with is feeling as though that like when they first get started, like we all hear the thing like, photographers, content creators, video, we need to get paid what we're worth, right? Like the industry is just getting so diluted and so oversaturated that like you get people who are getting taken advantage of. But my point is like, I feel like if you're just trying to get into the industry, just trying to get your foot in, right? Like you have so much time coming that you're going to be able to make that money. Like you're going to be able to actually get some cash from a project. And so that's like the big tool that I ended up using to my advantage. Like at the stores, like I'm making an income right now. Like I'm working like part-time, full-time or whatever. It's like, I don't need to make cash off these guys. Like I want to learn and experience some stuff. And so like, why not just be a really good face and just like show up and be a homie and say like, yeah, I'm done for whatever. Like I'll pull up, show up on time, get the job done. Don't be on your phone. Like just like learn, absorb it, be a sponge.
And that probably made them want to call you back. They're like, this guy doesn't have an ego. He's showing up. He's excited. We want to hang out with him. And then they're going to keep calling you. Then you're going to
turns into paid work.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it went from like multiple shoots for free to like, oh yeah, like I can toss you $100. And I'm like, sick.
Yes,
like
that first $100
and you get lunch too. And you're just like, damn, like on my off day, I make a little cash. And yeah, eventually some of those guys like just through like word of mouth and them seeing like me create things, like, make my own content outside of everything I was doing, they, eventually referred me to like some jobs and stuff. And I was actually able to actually go shoot some stuff for them. And so that was like the step to making everything that I was doing from a hobby to a career, was just by like being a team player and actually presenting myself and showing up and like being a face.
Do you remember who gave you your first opportunity to actually play a bigger role on the sets? Because I feel like everyone, there's a point where we're doing free work or whatever, and then you get to a point where you're like, I actually do have a decent little portfolio of 3, 4 videos, 5 videos that I could show you.
Yeah.
Do you remember that person that kind of gave you that shot?
It was actually Everett Ilgander.
Really?
Yeah.
You guys should all go check Ilgander's work out.
He is one of the
Goat.
most unique and like untouched, like in terms of like style. Like everything he puts out is somehow like different than anything that I've ever seen. And it's so classic. It's so timeless. He got to start as a photographer. He was working for a really big agency in Portland called Laundry Service. Crushing it with them for multiple years, was basically like Jordan's brand photographer for forever, like traveling all over the world doing photos, and just had such a good eye as a photographer that is the moment he picked up video, it was just like done deal. Like buys a red and is just like literally shooting like global campaigns for all of these brands. Like just like one of those guys that like his eye is just like untouched, or just, excuse me, like unmatched. So that was one of the people that I like just tried to be a good person to, and just like got his contact. He came in and like rented gear one time, and I just chatted with him for a bit and, you know, assisted him a bunch for free. And at that agency, he gave me the opportunity one time. He was just like, yeah, like, do you want to like come like a second shoot for like this just like outerwear little, you know, branded shoot that we're doing? And so we went out to the Oregon coast and shot some stuff. It was in near like Short Sands Beach and like a couple of those other state parks. I can't remember the name. Regardless, shot basically just like these jackets on this model, you know, for this brand that was contracted through the agency. And I just shot some assist photos, just like extra coverage, and got paid like, you know, a few $100 or whatever. And that was like the first opportunity where I was like, wow, like if I actually get a little uncomfortable with like what I feel like I'm capable of doing and put myself out there, don't be afraid to, you know, just do your best and be, you know, confident in your abilities. Like this can actually maybe turn into something.
Did the imposter syndrome hit you at all before going on?
100%.
Really?
I mean, like you know, he's amazing now, but back then he was truly like one of like the goats.
Yeah,
like
completely.
So unique. And so like, yeah, I 100%, he was like one of my biggest inspirations in terms of like creative style. So yeah, like being like a hired shooter to be a part of something he was doing, I was just like, oh my fucking God, like none of my files are going to look like anything compared to the, like what he's dumping. And so, yeah, I mean, but that was like one of those moments where truly like I found that the discomfort was like beneficial.
Did you find that you looked at your photos from that shoot and were like, oh, these are actually like maybe better than what I'm used to shooting? I find that whenever you're put in uncomfortable situations shooting with someone who's more talented than you, you're kind of forced to just elevate your game.
Yep. No, I mean, I looked at them and I was pleasantly surprised, right? But then it, like, of course, the imposter syndrome kicks right back in, and you're like, oh, but like he set up that frame, like, you know, he told the model to go stand there, and like I just got the secondary angle. But it's like, no, at the end of the day, man, like you could say, yeah, he did most of the work, but you still captured the image, right? Like you still like had the opportunity to click the shutter or like press record, and like you got a good shot out of it. And so you're able to use that kind of assist that you're getting from that supportive person that's kind of helping set up the style of the shoot, and you're actually able to absorb some of that stuff and hopefully be able to repeat it on your own.
Yeah, and you get to see how his mind works creatively, and you get to pull things and be like, I'm gonna remember he put the model there at this angle with this lighting.
Exactly.
And be like, I'm gonna do that on this next shoot.
Your first time on a big set, I was taking obviously, if you ever make your way onto a big set, do not ever share something on your story. It's very confidential stuff.
Oh man.
But you know, we've learned our lesson with that from friends. But if you do, I think it's so important to just maybe get a few phone videos so you can see like, oh, they're lighting it from this way, or who's the one calling the shots? What's the assistant director doing? Or why is the producer yelling at everybody to like stay on time? And you can start to pick up those things and take it to your small $500 shoot and just make it way better. You know, did you find that when you did make your way onto sets with Ilgander and you just kind of keep trugging along the path, are you writing these things down? Are you just taking mental notes? What's kind of your process?
I mean, I'm like a super visual person. Like I definitely like can remember like exactly what like, you know, lighting conditions looked like, and, you know, like where I was positioned, like camera composition and stuff. And so, yeah, I didn't really take notes or anything, but I mean, you know, as a side benefit of like everything I was doing with like YouTube videos, like almost all of the stuff I was learning on any shoot I was on, granted, yes, it was photography, all of those like principles and like those creative ideas would translate into like my videos, like in the, the coming months and stuff. And so, yeah, like there was plenty of things. Like a big part of how I learned a lot about cinematography and like lighting and gaffing and actually shaping light was because I was being a photo assistant on a lot of like commercial photography sets, like where they're in studios and they're setting up lights like everywhere. They're putting negative fill up. Like you're actually shaping light at that point to take like campaign studio photos. So there was a set that I was on. It was 2018. It was the year was 2017, excuse me, but the campaign was for 2018, like Nike fall, like outerwear or something like that. And this photographer, his name's Paul Reed Miller, like OG commercial photographer in Portland. Like I got referred to him by another person I met at Pro Photo, and they hired me as a photo assistant for the day. I think I made like $250 for that day, which at the time was like, damn, that's like a nice rate. I'll take that. But it was like a proper set, right? Like there's probably 15 or so client/agency people on set. Like the photographer has like a couple of his other assistants and stuff. There's a DIT on set, like multiple PAs. And so it was like the biggest, like most kind of like legitimate feeling commercial set I had been on. And yeah, that was one of those moments where it was just like, I'm doing my job and I'm being available and like, getting everything done and taking care of like my tasks, but I'm also just like looking at everything, like just staring at like what the photographer is saying to the DIT and like what they're talking about with regards to the edits that they're making in Capture One and just like everything. And so like all of those skills, like, I'm just trying to think like, how does that apply to like what I'm doing with like video and like vlogging? Like how can I use that like lighting principle that they used for their key light, like in like my YouTube videos or something. And so over time, like you just do enough of those jobs that, yeah, it's not necessarily the thing that I'm striving for. I'm not trying to be a commercial photographer, but I'm taking all of that information that I'm learning and I'm figuring out like, okay, how can I continue to refine everything that I'm doing with all of this knowledge that I'm getting access to?
Definitely. Yeah, totally. Take us back though, to kind of rewind. You get fired from Pro Photo. Yeah. You're doing YouTube. Yeah. Do you use you getting let go by Pro Photo as like, okay, this is going to be the catalyst that forces me to go all in on YouTube?
Pretty much exactly. I mean, it was like, well, actually, it wasn't all in YouTube. It was just all in on being like a creative entrepreneur. Because at that point, I had, had some opportunities to work like on the freelance side of things. And I was still like kind of doing the photography thing, like taking plenty of people's senior photos. So that was like good income. Like if you do enough of that, like you can stack up some cash. But, the moment that me being fired happened, like it like shook me. Like that was like my first real job that I had, like 2.5 years prior to that. I was there for about that amount of time. That's when I basically dropped out of high school. That's when I have like a ton of my friends and that are either going to college or like working like really solid, like, jobs of their own or like labor jobs. Like I had a bunch of friends that were getting into the union, like starting to make like pretty good money. So like, yeah, I get fired from this and I'm like a little vlogger YouTube kid. And I'm just like, well, fuck, like now I got some shit to figure out. But I had enough, I really did like had enough people that were kind of like in my pocket and on my team that were, encouraging me that like, hey, look, like you have the skill set and like the mentality and like the confidence to like actually do something with this. Like you just got to start. Like, at that time I was still living at my parents' house. And so I was blessed to like have that kind of safety net of like not really having overhead expenses. So it's not like I needed to like just go out and start making income. I didn't have like crazy amounts of bills to pay. But it was like, I can't waste time here. Like I can't like just be that kid who dropped out of school and like try to be a YouTuber or whatever. And then just like got fired from a camera store. And so at that moment it was like, I need to take the content that I'm doing like seriously and like actually put some intention behind it. And that was kind of like where my channel definitely pivoted and kind of evolved a little bit from like, oh, I was just making cinematic daily vlogs or whatever. It wasn't daily, but cinematic vlogging and like a little bit of stuff to where it's like, oh, people are like really engaging with this stuff and like asking for tutorials or like asking like how I learned these things. And so that was kind of the moment, probably the year like 2017-ish, 2018 that, I realized like, oh, I can use this as a platform to like tell stories.
What's also interesting is that anyone that's making content specifically on YouTube around the photo video niche it's not like that's ever 100% what you do.
Yeah.
Even the biggest person on YouTube in this niche, let's take Peter McKinnon, for example, he's still working on documentaries and like high level commercial shoots. So you bringing up, I guess, going back to my question of like, did you go all in on YouTube? I feel as though you're never going to go, like you're putting a lot of time and energy into the YouTube stuff for photo video, but like you're never going to stop doing freelance work or working on other projects as a photographer or videographer.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's oddly enough, like it's somehow such a big misconception. Like I even make the mistake myself of like having creators and stuff that I watch and look up to who I'm just like, damn, like they're just like doing this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, like those are probably the guys that are doing the same thing as me, where they have like 40 other things going on outside of these videos, but like they just like have like their thing going, like their groove with the content. And yeah, so like at that moment I don't think it was go full-time YouTube mindset. It was just like, you know, I need to be serious about like if I'm going to continue to try and be a content creator, vlogger, filmmaker, like whatever you want to call it. Like I think we all have a hard time, you know, properly labeling ourselves. Totally. Even at this point, you know, it was like regardless of whatever title I end up landing on, like I just need to be making like serious life choices and like actually making sure that like the energy I'm investing into these videos is not just like spinning wheels and like, you know, making pieces of content for fun solely. Leading up to that, I think a lot of it was that. It was me having fun. It was me just like learning for the sake of learning because it was like something exciting at that point. But, you know, you hit a point with your hobby, with your passion where it's like, oh, I can make this my livelihood, but it might mean that I have to have some days and have some projects that kind of suck. Like you kind of have to eat shit a little bit. You make that conscious decision that like, this is no longer only going to happen just when it makes me happy or when it's like I feel inspired or motivated. Like I am actually going to commit to making this like a career path.
Did you feel like was there a point where right now you're full-time creative, right? Yeah. You got money coming from different avenues we've talked about. Is the YouTube situation everything you thought it was going to be?
That's a good one. No, I mean, YouTube was so weird. I mean, right, like at that point, you know, kind of like again, we're talking like peak Casey Neistat, like Peter McKinnon's blowing up. Like you have all these guys that like look like they're just destroying it and like they're getting these brand deals and stuff. And like I had started getting like a little taste of that. Like I had started getting like my first few little like Squarespace sponsorships and like it's like, oh sick, like this is fucking crazy. Now I'm actually like making some money off videos because like as many of you know, like AdSense and the money you actually profit from the views on YouTube, it's like nothing. Like unless you're pulling hundreds of thousands of views weekly, like you're really not making like any income. So finally getting to see, you know, the income actually become something was great. But at the same time, it was still like so insignificant. Like it was still like I'm doing a senior photo shoot for like half a day or whatever, and it's like still making me more money than like, you know, these 20 YouTube videos that I put in a bunch of work for. And so there was a lot of phases kind of throughout the last like 5 years of like my channel where like some months I was like, damn, this is sick. Like YouTube is like doing really good. Like I feel like I'm getting like some good recognition. Like people are commenting and saying things that like I was hoping to hear, and, you know, I'm getting opportunities. But then there's also some months where it's just like, damn, this is a lot of fucking work for like not a lot of like, you know, payout, you know what I mean? And so it's been tough. Like I definitely think my mentality with it and the approach and sort of mindset that I've had, that YouTube for me, I'm not a full-time YouTuber, but it is a very big part of like my life and like what creatively fulfills me. It's like being able to use it as a platform to have a unique voice and tell a story or experiences in my life, and have creators be able to take away something from that and be able to grow and maybe help them in their own journeys. Like that is all I could have ever hoped it to be. And, you know, I'm trying to now currently like just keep looking at it like that, because it's I think for one, it helps me make better videos when I remove myself from those numbers and from the finances of all of it, and I just create videos that are passionate and important to me. But also too, it's like I think that there's a lot of people on the platform who are creating kind of for the wrong reasons, like who are maybe started making filmmaking videos because they just want the free gear, or, you know, are hustling out all these shorts because they just want to get up like a huge audience number, but they don't really have any like long-term intention for like what they're doing or like what message they're trying to say. And so being kind of removed from those variables, I think just has given me more breathing room, like more freedom. And, you know, I think it's helped me build like a pretty unique kind of like name and like audience and like sort of community for myself.
You bring up removing yourself from these videos and kind of going into it egoless in a way. How do you deal with not looking at the numbers of views that you get and having that affect your numbers? Because Braden and I are doing this 30 for 30 challenge where we're posting every day, and it's like, okay, great, we're showing up every day, we're putting in the work, but man, this video like flopped yesterday, like, and the day before, and like how do you deal with that mental battle of like, okay, I'm posting every week, but I thought this video was a banger, and like from a numbers perspective, maybe it didn't get as many views as you thought.
Yeah, it's really tough. And I don't think that there's really like a definitive way or a definitive solution that anybody can really tell, you know, to people that can fix it. You know what I mean? Like there's no miracle cure. Like everybody has like a different ego, like everybody has a different sense of like competition and all the kind of these like perceived emotions that come, you know, as a side effect of posting your life online. But the one thing that I've really found has like made such a huge difference, right? Like I can relate with you guys. Like I've posted now a couple of videos pretty recently, and my consistency as of the last like 6 months has been pretty shit. So I'm like stoked that I'm like getting back into a groove and posting some more things. But yeah, like my last couple of videos have just tanked, and it's like it's super discouraging for sure. But what has really helped me over like the last handful of years, especially as like life's just getting more serious, like I'm doing more things outside of the channel, but I'm also getting bigger brand opportunities with the YouTube channel, is that showing your video, you know, online and having all these strangers and just random people that you know, had never known. Of course, yeah, you got some of your like long-term audience members that you recognize and like they'll say great things, but you also get a lot of people who are saying like just, you know, blah, 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 the brand deals are really annoying on your channel, or like, yeah, you talk for too long, or the background music, or whatever the fuck, you know what I mean? Like that stuff, it definitely takes a toll on you. Like it does take away, and especially then you see the numbers to coincide with that, and you're just like, like, damn, this is like tough. What's helped me is having a network of people around you who are doing similar things to you and do support, you know, having like those people who you might look at on the platform as competition, just like, no, like make friends with them. Like we're all like pretty independent as creators, and it's nice to be able to have like a community of people that you can like text and be like, yo, like I've been working on this video, like I've got some ideas for the title, like what do you think? Like, you know, what thumbnail would you pick or whatever? Showing your video to them, and when you get those handful of comments from guys like that you do know, that you do respect, or even if you just text it to them and you're like, yo, would like, you know, just drop this new video, would love to get your thoughts on it. The fulfillment that comes out of that, their feedback, the people that you actually, you know, kind of have like meaning toward or you know, a good respect toward, that stuff is like really fulfilling. Or when you do get those comments from people that they send a DM and they're just like, dude, like that video like hit home. Like I've been feeling those things for like multiple months now, haven't really been able to put my finger on it. So it's like so amazing to hear that you're going through these same things too. Like it makes me feel really good. And I'm like, damn, like that helps me a lot, like knowing that like I am making an impact with some people. And you know, I do have my friends who I respect their work, they're looking at it and they're like, dude, that was a sick fucking video, like nice, like good work. And so like those moments, like those like small little wins that you can take, like I think if you really just allow your brain to consciously separate the two, like those will outshine the like the bad numbers and the bad weeks.
I think you're so right, because you get so wrapped up in it, dude. Like especially when you're in it and you're making stuff and you're putting a ton of time and effort into it. And like, I'm staying up super late. I'm working a job during the day.
Oh, man.
I'm exhausted, you know, and so still trying to put out like good content. But you talked about those small wins, and I think that you had a huge win recently. You went on a 7-continent tour for, is it a triathlon person? He's a triathlon guy, right?
Right. It's he's much more of an everyday guy than he is an athlete. Like he doesn't label himself as an athlete, but he's a really amazing human. He's a very big mental health advocate, you know, supports a ton of nonprofits and stuff. And he had a really interesting idea of attempting a world first, 7 triathlons in 7 continents in 7 consecutive days. So
Psycho.
yeah, right. Like
That's
little
insane.
fucking out there.
I brought this idea up to Braden like a year ago. I was like, we should do that. Wouldn't that be fun?
Oh my God. You're like, damn, I had that.
What are you doing this weekend, Braden? Like,
Yeah, let's go to 7 continents.
Yeah, man.
How do you even prepare for something of that magnitude? And second question, had you ever filmed a documentary like any documentary stuff like that before?
Well, how do you prepare for one? With the way that the timeline and kind of approvals for all the funding and sponsors to pay us and to pay for all the project logistics, we should have had a good 3 months or so for kind of like pre-production and just like getting familiar with things and like really planning out and mapping out like what we were going to be shooting. But we didn't get a green light from, well, the athlete himself didn't get a green light from the sponsors that were going to be paying for everything, including us, until a week and a half before we were scheduled to fly out. So long story short, it's like, wow, my second shooter, well, my creative assistant director, amazing guy, just multi-talented, Brett Blackwell, we like in that 3-month span from when we first got approached about it and kind of we proposed a whole package or whatever to that mark, like we had other things going on. Like we were getting booked for stuff and like we had these dates kind of like softly held, but it was just like there was no real movement on it. So it's like we're not like I don't really have the time to invest like into pre-pro like without knowing that something's gonna happen. So yeah, we didn't really prepare to be honest. Yeah, you know, if we get the phone call like about 2 weeks before, and he's like, "Yeah, you guys still available?" Yeah, we're going. So at that point, it was like a mad scramble to get all of the equipment together, like really start trying to figure out like how are we going to capture this story. Like, you know, the crew that we had, it was myself, you know, my second shooter / director, supportive guy, Brett. And that was pretty much it.
That's amazing.
Just us.
I mean, that's crazy.
We did it, and this was like a crazy last minute thing, but there was another really talented creative. Her name's Ali Salazar. She's based out of Texas. That Ray had known. Ray's the athlete, Raymond Braun. He had known her for a long time. He had worked with her in the past on just like branding stuff. She's like an amazing designer and just like sort of like creative director girl. And so last minute, the logistics, like the travel logistics for all of it, they said that there's like an open seat, like we can get one more person on like for like a significantly cheaper rate than what everybody else's seats costed. And so we brought her on. She did it spec, like unpaid, just because it's like the craziest experience, right? Like you're going to turn down somebody saying like, hey, do you want to go to 7 continents? And so she ended up being kind of like our producer / fixer, kind of just like project manager. Throughout the whole project, we had like a ton of sponsor deliverables and stuff, because that was like the main funding was like all of these sponsors that were like Zoa, the Roc's energy drink brand, Athletic Greens, Harry's like grooming and shaving. There's like 4 more that I can't remember
Was
right now.
Condor Blue one of them?
No, so that's, you know, in the name of like preparation for everything, I needed equipment and stuff. It's like I have a lot of stuff, don't get me wrong, I got a lot of gear, but like dock stuff, and especially like moving at that insane of a pace, like you gotta have the perfect rig and you gotta bring exactly what you need and nothing more, nothing less, because it's like we have to lug all this shit around like all over, literally across the world. So it's like we need to be perfectly stripped down with enough like functionality to get the shots we need without anything being like too much. Can't be too heavy, can't be too, you know, whatever. So I have, you know, through the amazing community that I've built and like these YouTube channels, like these YouTube videos have, you know, gotten to be really close with like a lot of different companies. So Condor Blue was incredible to provide, you know, basically all of the rigging for, we had 2 FX3s is what we shot on. We had a backup one. They provided the rigging to, you know, set these cameras up. I actually went to their headquarters. They're kind of east, like, I don't know, like another 30 minutes past like Riverside, like just kind of that direction. And and went in there for a day and like just played around with a bunch of their stuff, was like running around in their warehouse. Like they're amazing guys. Like if you guys haven't used any of Condor Blue stuff, it's literally a locally owned business. Like they are filmmakers themselves. The owner of the company, Lucas Colombo, like has owned a production company for like 15 years. Like he's director, DP, and just wanted better rigging stuff. And so he just started making it, and then within a couple of years it just took off. And they have great stuff. So anyways, if you guys are into camera rigs and stuff, Condor Blue, they're great.
Cal 15% off at checkout.
I think it might be Cow 10.
Cal 10.
Yeah. But yeah, so Condor Blue provided all the rigging. I have a really good relationship with Sony, as you guys know. And so Sony was actually able to lend us a couple of the FX3s and like some lenses and stuff. Cause I had an FX3 at the time, but we needed a few, and a bunch of lenses. And so they gave us, you know, the full package to get everything done. And so it was like the somehow like the resources that I've accumulated like just perfectly fell into place to like, okay, great. Like we got 1 week out, like it's go time. And I'm like just texting everybody I know, like trying to get all this stuff together. And it, you know, it worked out. Like it didn't, of course I look back on it now and like how we film things. I'm like, could have done this better. Like could have used this lens. But it's like, you know, like for what we were given and the time and like the resources, like, yeah, we shot an amazing film. And so that documentary itself is, again, because the timeline was so crazy and we didn't have the pre-pro and like the full budget, like we still have some stuff to film, still some backstories. We're going to go back to some of the locations and interview some people, and then we'll move into editing. But yeah, we're just waiting on some more sponsors to fund the rest of it.
So if you're watching, like,
yeah, soon. The trailer itself may be coming out fairly soon. We're waiting on a green light for something right now, and so I'm really, really excited about that. So yeah, maybe by the time this is out, maybe you guys can go check my page. Yeah, maybe you can go find it. But you asked another question, and it was, had I done any other documentary work that, you know, had given me prior experience or any you know, tools or things to lean on past experiences. Oddly enough, I actually shot I wouldn't necessarily call it a full-on documentary, but I shot a lot of doc content for an athlete. This guy is a literal superhuman. His name is Colin O'Brady. He holds, I want to say like 7 or 8 world records. He was the first person to solo, unsupported, unpowered cross Antarctica, literally the continent of Antarctica. And he did it in 45 days or something like that. I don't know if you guys, I mean, it was like 1,000 miles.
That's crazy.
Antarctica.
You went to Antarctica.
I
did the cameras work in Antarctica?
They did.
They did. Fine.
Dude,
completely fine.
Those like FX3s, like people like kind of shit on Sony's because like there's real cinema cameras and big boy cinema cameras, and they got the FX3 that's kind of like a small little camera. No, those things are legit.
I had the FX3 until it got stolen out of my car, but it was great. Great while I had it. Thing was the little tank. Dude,
nuts.
It's amazing, dude. That's beautiful though. Anything? Yeah. Okay, one thing besides pre-production that you would change going back into filming something like that? Just one thing.
Besides pre-production.
Besides time. Nothing time related, more so like you're in the field and you're like, ooh, someone really needs to know this if they go cover a documentary.
I think one of the biggest things, and it's going to depend on like the type of narrative you're trying to tell, like how much time you're spending with a singular character. Are you sitting down with like a ton of individual people? Like, if you're shooting a doc that's fundamentally based around like a person or a group of people and you're getting to spend a lot of time with them, the best moments, like the most emotional things, the things that you might not even think are relatable to the story, always tend to come like when you least expect it. So you have to be conscious and just like listening to people like while you're on a doc shoot, and especially if it's like a multi-day thing, ton of travel, it's tough. Like you get tired, you want to rest, right? Like you can't be like turned on 24/7. But truly some of the best moments like in the dialogue and everything that we shot in that doc like came when we were just like rolling the camera like randomly, like when he's about to like pass out and I'm just like, I'm about to fall asleep too, and I'm just like wide angle lens, just like camera sitting over here, and he'll like drop like the most like emotional like one-liner. And it's like, wow, like you can't script that shit. You know what I mean? Like, especially in a doc, it's like, yeah, of course, we would have loved to have like a little bit more of a story to like lean into and have some like heroed bullets that we're kind of looking for while we're filming. We didn't have that. And so, yeah, it's like you do your best to kind of each day go out and capture and keep trying to like envision what the story is going to become in your head. But the biggest thing is like, those moments just happen when they happen. And so being ready like at all times to just like get a shot and like be confident that like your framing is going to work, like not overthinking like what lens you're using, not overthinking what the lighting looks like. It's like doc really relies on the story more so than any type of filmmaking.
Yeah.
If you're not telling the story, if the backbone message isn't right, like nobody's going to watch the fucking documentary. So, it doesn't matter if the shot's not perfect. Like if you're able to like capture those gems, those like emotional moments that can actually add some like weight and like drama to the story, like those are what you need to look for. So it's tough. I can't, it's not like the most conclusive advice.
No, but I think that is great advice.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's great.
Yeah. And do you see yourself wanting to do more doc work? Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because so much of what I've really been working toward the last like 2 years or so, a big part of like why I moved to LA is like a lot of the commercial cinematography stuff has been like kind of what I'm like super engaged in. And it's what's kind of getting me a little bit of like a portfolio. And, I'm starting to build like a pretty good reputation with clients and stuff. I'm, able to shoot some cool campaigns with like Adidas and stuff like that.
I saw that. I showed you that.
Yeah,
remember? I was watching and I was like, dude, you got to check out Ryan's new video for Adidas. It was sick.
Thank you, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've been able to do some really unique stuff with those companies, and have surprised myself like every time. Like I always go into it thinking like I'm way in over my head. You know what I mean? And then you do the thing, exactly what we were talking about before. It's like you go out and shoot, maybe there's somebody who's really kind of helping, but at the end of the day, it's like, you still created the piece. As much as I'm really, really enjoying the commercial filmmaking and I'm getting like some really interesting roles and like creating some crazy pieces, the doc stuff is like, it's close to my heart. You know what I mean? Like I love getting to like be close to people and like really learn something unique about them and have like that creative tool and ability and skill set to take like that special thing about that person and like share it with other people and make like a story and a film out of it. Like to me, that's like, I feel like it's a fucking superpower.
100%. Yeah. You're being able to amplify someone's message and someone's voice. It's a special thing.
It's the weirdest thing to think about. Like a lot of people, when they think about like, oh, should I be like a content creator? Like, should I maybe start making YouTube videos? And then they, of course, like quickly second guess themselves. And they're like, and there's nothing like unique about like what I'm doing. Like, I'm not like that good at it. Like, I don't really have like that much skill. Like there's plenty of people.
Shit, dude. You're good at this stuff. Shut up.
No, it's not that. It's the fact that while I don't necessarily think I'm like amazing, like I recognize like I have skill, but I think the one thing that has helped me continually do it just every year and like not give up on it and keep learning and growing is the fact that like the stories I tell, like they're just authentic to me. And while in my own head, might not believe that like my story is like the most unique or it's like the most inspiring or it doesn't necessarily have like the best takeaway. It's like my story is still like unique to me and there are people who are going to relate to that story. Like no matter how boring you think you are as a person, it's like you have like a story, you have a voice and people will relate to it like in the most unassuming ways. And it's a crazy thing. Like the shit that like people have like responded to me on like with certain videos I worked on, even stuff that like wasn't even like super serious. It was just like something I said in an Instagram story and like people were just like, dude, that like made my day. Like using that to your advantage and like leaning into that and feeling confident about like who you are and like what you present, like it's an amazing tool. And so that directly relates to like what I'm saying about like what's so amazing about like documentaries. Like I can find that with people. Like I can sit with them and like, work on something and then figure out that like, yeah, they're like an incredible speaker. So like, I want to like get them saying some really amazing stuff and like make something powerful out of that. Like, yeah, it's truly an unbelievable feeling, like having that opportunity to work with people in that way.
I also feel like if you find someone who has a very unique, incredible story, you almost feel like it's your job as a filmmaker to shine a light on that person's story because you're like, the world needs to see this.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's like they're like I'm saying, it's like everybody has something.
Yeah.
Like no matter how insignificant it might seem, it's like a lot of people like have incredible stuff or like incredible stories of adversities or growth moments and things to share wisdom. That they don't have a way to do it. Like they don't have the voice or they don't have the confidence or the skill set. And so like, that's like a really, really powerful thing as filmmakers that we get the opportunity to do is like to come into people's lives, whether it's a an athlete like I just worked with, or whether it's a small business like, based here in Los Angeles that like has an amazing product or has like some insane new thing that they're working on, but they just like, they don't have the opportunity or the resources to be able to like get that story out there in an authentic and like quality way. And so like getting our skills built up around, the idea of being able to tell those stories is like a really, really powerful motivator for me.
I love that. You brought up Sony and that you have a great relationship with them. You've gotten to go to Sony camp, which my invite, Braden, must have gotten lost in the mail. I don't know how I didn't get invited.
Went to Jayhawk. He said, they rerouted to Chicago.
Yeah, there was like the return
there
to
was
sender
a list
or something like that.
there was that list.
Maybe next year.
Yeah, the list they
Maybe
came
next
out
year.
with.
Sony Camera Camp. Yeah, it's my second time going. It was the second one that they had put on. Amazing event. It's like and weirdly enough, there was quite a few people that like were like, damn, like seems like this is like pretty like, they picked their favorites type of thing. Like, I feel like I'm a Sony guy and I didn't get an invite and stuff. And it's like,
it's not good enough. Be honest with them. Be honest with them. Come on.
just drop some real hard truths real quick.
You just suck, and that's why you didn't get invited.
No, man, it has nothing to do with skill set. You'd be really surprised at the demographic of people that were there.
Dude, there were some people there that sucked ass. I was like, how did they get an invite? No, I'm kidding.
No, man, really good friends there. I mean, obviously, like, there's a few of like the heroes that are there, like, Matty Hopoyo is there, like Gene Potato Jet, like, a bunch of these like really amazing camera YouTubers. And that's why I think a lot of people like see it like all over social and YouTube, and they kind of like, turn a little side eye a little bit. They're like, damn, like, all right, just like all these like big ass camera YouTubers that are about to go drop reviews about the new camera. Like, I don't give a fuck. I didn't even get invited. But no, there was a ton of really unique, like there was a ton of like social people, like strictly social, like TikTokers that have no fucking clue about cameras.
Oh, really?
That were invited. Like just people that make videos about like travel and food. And then there was like a YouTuber there, her name's Shannon something, but she makes YouTube videos. She has nothing to do with filmmaking, but she makes YouTube videos about like cybersecurity and like hacking and like antivirus, like just all this crazy stuff. And she's like it's like 90 or 100K or something like that.
It's a squad for everybody, man.
Dude, yeah. Sony, like the first camera camp I went to back in 2019, pretty specific to like photo, video people. The name camera camp, makes you it's kind of obvious. But this one, yeah, their team went out of their way to like be inclusive. So it's like, yeah, I know there's a lot of people that were like, damn, I wished I got invited, but it's like, you don't have to be a Sony like little simp or anything. Like you don't have to be some insane like YouTuber or filmmaker or whatever. It's like they are really trying to just cultivate more connection and more, technology and access to that technology to bigger audiences.
Do you enjoy being around all of those creatives? Does that inspire you? Or do you feel like you're like, all right, I've got enough creativity now, I'm going to go back and like edit stuff?
It's funny. Like pretty much everybody that I'm close with, at least like kind of, my photo video friends, YouTubers and stuff, we all kind of go through the same thing where it's like you get there and you're like mad stoked and you're like, this is so sick. Like you get to see everybody and like actually like put names to faces and whatnot. The next day rolls around and you're like, damn, like everybody's got the cameras out. Like they're going crazy, creating content. And you like all these like TikTok kids are like going crazy, making reels about the new camera.
Doing the dance.
No, it's funny. Like I think there was also like a weird kind of energy that people felt like a little bit obligated to like make stuff about. So they announced a new camera while we were there. That took away from it a little bit. I think the first camera camp, there wasn't any new cameras. They have this whole setup of a bunch of Sony equipment that you can go and, borrow for the day and like try out and go crazy. But yeah, they announced a new camera, it's an amazing camera, the ZVE1. I'm going to be doing some films and some upcoming projects with it at some point soon. But yeah, that launch kind of did make people feel like a little bit obligated, like, oh, I need to like be shooting something about this camera. Like I ran through that kind of like weird mindset. And so anyways, yeah, you kind of feel like a little bit like creatively pressured. And then like by the second day, you're like, oh shit, okay, like I can like relax a little bit. Like, I'm going to like take the gas off a little bit and actually like hang out with my friends and, enjoy it, whatever, have dinner, have some drinks. And then the third day comes around or whatever, the final day, and you're like, shit, I haven't shot anything. And you're like looking at all these kids and you're like, damn, they have already posted 4 videos.
Oh my gosh.
And so, yeah, I mean, it's a weird thing, right? Like you get a bunch of creators in a singular place and like, you know, it does feel like a little bit competitive, but you know, the more you can kind of remove yourself from that and like realize like, no, this is just an event that they put on, like they paid for it. Like they want people to come out and like enjoy themselves and like build some like community and like rapport, you know, with each other and like develop new friends. Once you're able to kind of accept it for that, like, yeah, it's a great time.
That's
like
awesome.
I would hope, you know, so hey, Sony, get these boys here.
Brandon here shoots Canon.
I'll
but
do whatever.
boy,
I'll do
We're
whatever. it
shooting
takes.
the pod on an A1.
I had an
so
FX3, dude. Come on. That was a part
Sony
of the
A1. Yeah, I'm gonna go take your C70 and throw it off the back. Yeah, you hear that, Sony?
But you brought up like how important it is, like when you're trying not to focus on the views and everything, to have that community. And it must be great to, I'm sure you've, you know, had people that you've been talking to online. You have your internet friends.
Yep.
And then you
Jayhawk.
finally get to meet them in
Jayhawk was
person.
one of those boys.
He's
Yeah.
sweet, dude. We've never met. We've
Dude.
DM'd for. Oh no, we met once. I'm sorry. We met at the Lakers game.
fuck, man?
Yeah, sorry. We met at the Lakers game. But he's a homie, dude. It's fun when. And dude, I hadn't met you in person,
Dude, I know. So
We've talked forever.
I was gonna like before you killer intro, by the way. Nailed that. Before we started, I was gonna say that. I was like, damn, like I've been ducking this man for like a year now at this point. I moved to LA like coming up on the year, and he's been trying to get me on the pod like every other week. Life. I'm sorry. I promise it wasn't intentional.
Dude, it's okay.
I've been excited. I've been looking forward to it.
We're happy you came. It's been a fun pod. What were you saying?
I think it's time for our new
hit me.
segment.
Hit me with it.
Dude, we've never done this before.
What do we got?
This is a brand new one.
So it's called Stock and Talk. And
God.
basically
If we're
stalked,
talking finances, I don't know shit.
we stalked your Instagram and then we're going to have you talk about it. What I want to bring up, okay, I got to scroll down a little bit.
Should I pull up my phone or should I just
No,
like,
he's
go on
got
top?
you.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, he's got
Alright.
you. He's got you.
One sec. Okay. May 14th, 2018.
Oh man.
You stopped posting a white border on your Instagram.
Yeah.
Now that's silly, right? But I want to talk a little bit about like switching things up during your career and like finding your style and trying new things. That's a really silly thing, is like you were consistently posting white borders and you kind of had like a certain aesthetic and then you decided to go, you know, in a different direction. But like, have there been times where you've switched up the direction career wise, or like the type of content you make, or like just trying to constantly evolve as a content creator?
Oh, dude, tons. I mean, it's funny. That's while that visually appears like a pretty big shift, at the time it wasn't like a huge decision making. Like it was like I started doing that like cropped like widescreen with the white borders for a while, because that was kind of like right around where YouTube and like the idea of like cinematography became like pretty exciting to me. And I was like, oh shit, like I could start posting like more like cinematic frames. Like most of those were actual photos, but there's like a couple that were like actual screen grabs from film and whatnot. And I had just done it for a while and I loved the aesthetic of it. But I think the motivator for that switch was actually that like Instagram was it was one of those like algorithm change times that it was just like shit was weird.
Sure.
And I was just like, damn, like, you know what, like maybe I gotta go back to the normal like 4x5. Like, but no, I mean, there wasn't a lot that creatively in my head changed at that moment. But throughout the journey of just continuing to work and grow, yeah, there's been a ton of them. And what's so weird about them is that when they happen, like when you hit that like rut and you're like, all right, like my shit looks terrible. Like I'm not like nothing I'm posting I feel like is like really making me feel like I'm doing good or like putting out like good looking content or quality or whatever. You go through that kind of like a little identity crisis for a sec, and it's like scary as fuck. Like you're like, damn, like should I like pivot? Should I just do like product videos or something like that? Or should I just like start doing corporate content just to make the money? Like you know, you start second guessing a lot of things like when you have those like weird creative like kind of crises. I don't know what the fuck.
That works for me. Whatever.
Take
works
it.
for
Me
whatever
too.
you say. Yeah.
And I mean, I didn't go to school, so. But it's as you go through each of those, you know, maybe a small shift happens when you have that like big, you know, roadblock. You change something. You change the crop of your Instagram photo or something like that. Or maybe you're like, you know, I hate my photos looking blue. Like I want to start making like more like warm looking photos and stuff. Those moments of like creative reflection are, while scary, so important. like taking that little breather to just like pull off the gas a bit and like look at your stuff and like not get into the comparison trap. Like that's the hardest thing, I think, when those things happen. You immediately go like, if you're trying to change your style, you start going and looking at everybody and you're just like, I'm not going to come close.
Yeah.
Like this is only going to like make things worse. But if you can use those opportunities to like just reflect and maybe even, again, lean into that network that we were talking about and just like talk to some people and just be like, yeah, like, so, I mean, like, how do you feel about your stuff lately? Like, is there anything that's like holding you back? Like, is there anything that's like draining you? And actually being able to like assess something about that and make a little adjustment, whether it's just like, I need to post less. Like, I'm tapped out. Like, I need to take a break. I need to take a breather. Like, I can't keep feeding the machine like this often. Like, it's just taking too much out of me. Or maybe it comes down to the fact that like, yeah, I just need to like stop trying so hard to like, you know, be like a model or something like that. Just like small little like lifestyle adjustments that can directly correlate to like, you know, affecting how you create and like what makes you still more excited on a daily basis. Like those little breaks, while it might seem like the end of the world, might seem like you're, you know, second guess your career and everything you're doing. Those moments I find have been like the most valuable for me.
Amazing. So we got 2 more for you and we'll let you get out of here. This has been an awesome combo, but for your next 6 to 12 months as a filmmaker, as a DP, what's a few things that you're really trying to get better at?
That's good. I think the biggest thing in my current like workflow and like this my state of mind and how I perceive like my brand and, you know, what is visible to people and what's not. Like I feel as though, particularly with Instagram, I've for a long time, like scrolling back through some of those old photos, like I leaned into like the influencer thing like quite a bit, and like I never really felt like an influencer, and I don't think I really like fronted like one, but I like certainly you see like a lot of photos of me like in pretty much the same like, you know, crazy like cliffside or whatever, and I for a long time like that's just like what got the views and like the likes and stuff, and I got really tired of it at a point, and I was like, yeah, I want to start like just maybe I should start sharing my work. Like that's like what nowadays is what gets like DP's work, is like, what is your public presence like represent? Like what's your, like, what are you posting on a daily basis, right? And so it's like you see all these DPs that are constantly dropping like frames from their projects or like little clips or even like the full edit or whatever, and I tried to do that for a little bit, and it was just it flopped so hard, and it was like immediately discouraging. I'm like, damn, like, yeah, okay, like I don't really need to share the work. It's not like I need to get new clients right now, but I just steered away from it for a bit. But as I'm continuing to try and grow and develop as a cinematographer and really show to people that like I do have an eye, like I am, you know, somebody who can jump into a project and deliver like that like creative look that they're looking for their project, posting that work has been like really, really important. And so the last like year or so I've been kind of doing it, but there's like a lot more stuff that I need to post. Like I just haven't given it the time, or like gone and like made like a little cut down of the director's cut or whatever. And so the next like 6 to 12 months is like, I really, really want to take that seriously and prioritize, like, don't let that footage that I shot on that project just die and go into a hard drive or whatever. Let's take it, like, let's work with it. Maybe I can get approval from the client to just post the video if I'm happy with it, or I can make a director's cut out of it. It's another really powerful thing that a lot of video people don't really know or understand, but just making your own cut of that project and allowing that footage to get another life or give you some extra value in the long term. Same, you can do the same thing with photography a little bit, but you know, footage is footage, and you can edit it a totally different way. And so, yeah, I want to share more of my work and keep showing on a public side of things, like all of the client stuff that I've been doing and like really, really kind of like feeling good about.
Yeah, I think that's smart. Okay, our last question is advice to your 18-year-old self. If you could talk to Ryan back in the day, what would you tell him?
I think the biggest thing, and this is a little bit tricky because it's a little bit unique to me. It's not like super universal, but I think that I would tell my 18-year-old self to really be unafraid to find new friends and find more friends that are supportive of the things that I'm doing. That's not to say that like the friends that I had at that time were like bad friends by any means, but it's like I definitely didn't really value or consider the fact that like having a close circle of people around you would be beneficial to growing as like an artist, right? Like there's that saying, like you are the product of the 5 people you surround yourself with or spend your most of your time with. And I just never thought about that. Like I just never really believed that like it made a difference, that like a bunch of my friends, again, some of my best friends, but like they work in like manual labor and stuff like that. Like they love what I do, but it's not like they're doing anything that like I can learn from or be inspired from or, look up to. And so what's so different about where I'm at in my life now is that, I'm 26 years old and I'm finally starting to prioritize that and really like seeking out those relationships. Like, even if they're not necessarily like the most like homey of a person, it's like, are you like somebody that I'm constantly, tapping in with, or they're tapping in with me and just being like, yo, what's up? Like, let's work on something. Like, I thought you're supposed to be working on that video. Like, where's that at? Those relationships like go like so far. And it's so easy to not want to adjust your social circle, but making that change, I think, sooner in my life, I think could have helped me get a lot further forward quicker.
Absolutely, dude. Well, thank you for coming on the show. This was a blast. Episode 67 out now, all platforms. Make sure to hit that sub button, leave a like. We'll leave Ryan's socials all below, and we'll see you guys all next week. Peace.
Later.